In today's episode, we're talking about preserving your energy. Not everyone needs access to you. Welcome back to another episode of Money Mindset with Gull Khan. And today I want to talk to you about something that I have only really understood recently. And the irony of this is actually quite hilarious because I've been working with energy for years. Years. I talk about energy, I work with energy, I understand vibration, I understand the emotion of energy. I understand emotional energy. I understand how money has energy attached to it. I talk about money being your best friend. I understand how people can walk into a room and without saying a word, change the energy completely. I literally have an understanding of how money and the energy of money works. I have literally built my part of my work around understanding energy. And yet recently I had this moment where I thought, Ghoul, if energy is so important, why are you giving everyone access to you? Excuse me? How did I miss that? What? How? Like, how? And it's like being a security consultant and suddenly realizing you've been leaving your own front door open. Everyone, please install CCTV cameras, alarms. Meanwhile, my own house is like, come in, shoes on or off, entirely your choice. And this realization has changed something fundamental for me. I've now decided that I'm going to become much more conscious about physical contact, not just with men, but women also. And in particular, I've decided that I no longer want to shake hands with non-mahram. Now, for those of you who don't understand what mahram concept means, mahram is an Islamic concept where there are certain relations such as your father, your brother, your uncles, your husband and your son, and your niece and nephews, not niece, nephews rather, who are part of your mahram, mahram group. Basically, the men you're not allowed to marry, plus the husband. Once you marry somebody, your husband becomes your mahram as well. So everybody else is a non-mahram. And I've now made a conscious decision that I used to shake hands before, in professional settings, of course. And also I wasn't that conscious. I didn't take that much effort into whether someone, especially if they were cousins, etc., or uncles, obviously not immediate uncles, but distant uncles. I would put my head in and get them patted and stuff and had some sort of physical contact, obviously non-sexual, of course, but still physical contact. And I realized I don't want that. Like in personal or professional settings, I really don't want that. This idea, this concept that's been given to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by God, there's a reason for it. And I understand the logics behind it now, and this is why it's really important to me. So I've given you the religious context, but it's also important to me because I understand energy so well. So yes, for me, the decision it has an Islamic foundation, but there's something else that's happening alongside it. I want to preserve my energy. I don't want everybody having access to me, not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually, and not mentally. And frankly, sometimes I'm not even on WhatsApp. Seriously, right? Some people definitely need to remain undelivered. Absolutely. Because here's what I'm beginning to understand. Access to you should not be automatic. Absolutely not. Now, I thought being open was a good thing. I did. For much of my life, I think I associated with openness with being with goodness, openness with goodness, being friendly, being warm, being making people more comfortable, making people comfortable, shaking hands with someone, giving someone a hug, listening to their problems. In general, just helping others, helping them, making them feel welcome, making them feel comfortable above my own comfort needs. And there's nothing inherently wrong with warmth, absolutely not. And I'm not advocating that we all become emotionally unavailable and like, Victorian aristocrats. No, 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 not at all. Like good morning nods from from 12 feet away, and that's not what I'm saying. But because I love people and I love connection. But I started understanding there's a difference between being loving and being accessible. You can love people without giving everybody intimate access to you. You can be compassionate without carrying everyone's problems. You can be polite without physical contact. You can be kind without opening every door. And you can have boundaries without becoming cold. I mean, the last one being particularly important to me because women, especially, are often conditioned to make everybody comfortable. Everybody. Don't offend anybody. Don't make things awkward. If somebody reaches out their hand, shake it. If someone comes in for a hug, hug them. Even when you're inside of you're thinking, oh, I didn't order this, like, no, 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 no. But your instinct is, to respond and give in, right? But we do it because we don't want other people to feel uncomfortable. That's generally the reason why we do it. And I reached a stage where I think, why does protecting someone else's momentary comfort automatically outrank my boundary? It doesn't. So the answer is no. And that's what the idea I've come to. I mean, then I looked at the science of touch. This is where things become really interesting for me. Because sometimes we talk about touch as though it's nothing. It's only a handshake, it's only a hug, it's just physical contact. Except biologically, touch isn't nothing. Your skin is a sensory organ. Touch information travels through your nervous system and is processed in your brain. Researchers studying interpersonal touch have found that touch can affect social behavior, bonding, emotional responses. And crucially, context matters. Who touches you matters. What your relationship with a person is, that matters. Whether the touch is wanted matters. Your emotional state matters. The circumstances matter. Scientific reviews of social touch have found that our response to touch can vary depending on things such as relationship status, familiarity, psychological factors, and a lot of the times the social context that also has an impact on how we perceive that physical contact or the physical touch. So, in other words, your body doesn't experience every person's touch identically, which I find fascinating because spiritually we have been talking about discernment and boundaries for thousands of years. And neuroscience comes along and says, well, actually, context matters. Thank you, science. That was a long time coming. Welcome to the meeting. There's also research around affectionate touch, oxytocin, of course, cortisol. Okay, let me get them a word. Cortisol, and our stress response systems. Again, I want to be really precise here. I'm not saying science has proved that somebody shakes your hand and the spiritual energy jumps into from their body into yours. Absolutely not. It's like transferring a PDF through Bluetooth. Like, no, 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 that's not what I'm saying. This is not what the research says. So please don't quote me on this, saying scientists discovered toxic anti transmits through the handshake, right? No, that's not what I'm saying. What science does tell us is that touch is a meaningful sensory social event. The brain notices it, the nervous system processes it, hormonal responses can be involved, and our responses depend heavily on who is touching us and in what context. This is enough for me to stop treating physical access as completely meaningless, right? So this is the science behind it. And in Islam, it made this more, in Islam, it made more sense to me. This is where my personal decisions are really settled. Because as a Muslim woman, I started looking in at something that has always been there, always. Aisha Anha said, may Allah be pleased with her, reported that when women gave their pledge to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu he accepted the pledge verbally. He did not have physical contact with them. He did not touch their hands. Think about that, the significance of the occasion. This wasn't a casual interaction. This is their pledge of allegiance, right? It's incredibly important moment in their lives, and in Islamic history. Yet physical contact wasn't required to establish respect, sincerity, and agreement. That really stayed with me. Because sometimes we have as though we're refusing handshake means I disrespect you. No, 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 no. This is a Western concept. The Prophet ﷺ demonstrated that you can conduct important interactions with dignity, with respect, and without physical contact. And so now for me, when a non-Mehram a man offers me his hand, I can smile and say, I'm sorry, but I don't shake hands for religious reasons. And that's it. No further explanations required. Nobody needs a PowerPoint presentation, right? And I don't need to bring a Sheikh Google into the reception area saying, yeah, I don't need to say this, right? Please take a seat while I explain my spiritual awakening. But no, no. Smile, be gracious, be respectful, and keep your boundary. And it's your decision. It's your body, it's your physical entity, and it's your decision to make. Because boundaries don't need aggression. The strongest boundaries are often very quiet ones, but you have to enforce those boundaries. And as a woman, that's even more important. Now, some divine rules are protection, and this has come to light. And this made me think about Islam differently too. Sometimes when we are younger, religious boundaries can feel like restrictions. Don't do this, don't do that. Why? Why can't I? Why does it matter? And all these questions run through our heads. But as I've grown older and as I've grown spiritually, I've started seeing many boundaries less and less restrictions and more as protection. Allah understands his creation better than his creation understands themselves, right? And sometimes we're asking, but why is this boundary necessary? Meanwhile, Allah says, I know what you cannot see. I know what you don't know. And I'm beginning to appreciate that the sacred boundaries around intimacy, modesty, interaction can create protected space around a human being, which is crucial for our personal development, for our physical well-being in this physical dimension. And I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea. Not because men are bad, and don't please don't understand me. Don't misunderstand me at all. This is not an anti-men episode. It really isn't. Okay, men, you may continue existing. I am not anti-men at all. Permission granted, right? This is about intentional access. These are men are there are men that I respect tremendously, men I work with, men I learn from, men I employ, men I conduct business with, men, in my personal space, my brother, my son, my friends, my uncles, my cousins, etc. There's so many men in my life who I deeply respect and honor. So I don't think men are bad. I just want to protect my physical space, right? I don't need physical contact with these men who I respect dearly in order to respect them, right? And they don't need physical access to me in order to respect me. That distinction feels incredibly powerful, incredibly powerful. So then I started looking at scriptures, other scriptures, and something beautiful happens when you look across spiritual traditions. Different traditions have different languages. But again and again, you find the same ideas appearing again, guarding the inner self, mastering the senses, being careful about who you allow into your consciousness. In the Bible, Proverb 4:23 tells us to guard the heart because what flows from our life comes from it. I love that. I absolutely love that. Guard your heart. Not build a concrete bunker around it. No, absolutely not. But trust absolutely nobody. And I like that. Guard it. Guard your heart. And I think this is a concept that we've forgotten in modern times. A guard decides who comes through the gate. That's discernment, right? The New Testament also treats the body as something sacred rather than meaningless, and it should as well. Again, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or simply spiritual, there is something powerful in that concept too. Your body is not public property. It isn't. Your body is sacred. Your attention is sacred. Your emotional space is sacred. Your time is sacred. And therefore, access to those things should be intentional and kept sacred, right? The Bhagavad Gita and the senses. The Bhagavad Gita approaches this through the mastery of senses. There's this recurring idea that wisdom requires us not to be dragged around every external stimulus. One of the most famous images is of withdrawing the senses like a tortoise withdrawing its limbs. I love this image because apparently the tortoise understands boundaries before I did. Tortoise, is this good for my peace? No. Okay, head disappears, right? Honestly, I need to channel more of my tortoise energy. I really do. But not every invitation requires acceptance, right? Not every conversation requires participation. Not every person deserves a response. Not every argument needs an opinion. Not every room deserves your presence. Not every hand needs to be shaken. Sometimes spiritual maturity looks like knowing when to withdraw, like a tortoise. Energy is bigger than physical touch. And this is where I want to broaden the conversation. Because when I say protect your energy, I don't mean physical touch alone. Somebody can never touch you physically and still absolutely drain you. You know those people, right? You speak to them for 10 minutes and afterwards you need electrolytes, nap, and possibly a rakaya, like to get them out of your head, right? Nothing has actually happened. They just called or you just spoke to them, but somehow you've aged like 6 to 9 months. This is access to emotional access and sometimes, a lot of the times, mental access. And this is where I realized I have historically given too much access to myself. Um, and this has really dawned on me in who I want to keep in my personal space. I think over the years, I have slowly used discernment to eliminate people from my life who I no longer want to have physical access to me. I'm one of those people that has difficulty saying no a lot. And even though I've come across as someone who says no like this, and has boundaries, etc., etc. Yes, I think that's more true nowadays in the last few years, but not so historically. I have always been a people pleaser. And I've loved everyone and so forth. And now I think, does this person need to be in my space or should be in my space? Yes, no. Do I want to keep having interactions with these individuals personally or professionally? Yes or no? Do I benefit from this individual being in my life? Yes or no? And before, if someone got upset with me or someone left my space or if I felt I was being rude to someone, I would overthink. I'm an overthinker. And I would feel guilty about it for days, not weeks on end. Now, I look at the situation and think, is this worth it? Do I need this person in my life? Do I want this person in my life? They could be a really nice person, but do I want to keep them in my life? Yay, nay. Quite simple. And what I found is this helped me to have more time and space in my life for those people who do matter, people who I do want to keep in my life, people who are important to me, and for whom I do want space and time. And I enjoy talking to them. They bring value to my life and I bring value to theirs. That's the key. It's where open door access to me has now been closed. And if you are in my personal space, if I make the time to see you, if I make the time to speak to you on the phone, then know that I really, really value you because I've come to the point in my life where unless you are really important to me, I will not exchange more than a few words of niceties to you. I'll say hello, goodbye, and see how you are, pleasantries, being English and all. We'll exchange pleasantries, but that's it, nothing more. I will not make space for you in my head, in my emotions, in my heart, or in my physical space, or my time, because my time is really precious. And this is a new chapter in my life. And I think it's been developing for a few years. But this concept that I've just accepted about myself, really having strong boundaries, including not even shaking hands with strangers or even, people, acquaintances, it's a new one. I went to see a friend today and I hugged the mum and the wife and so forth. That's okay. Those personal spaces were fine, but everybody else, no. Would I continue down this path? Absolutely. Do I care how other people will perceive me? Not really. I think previously in professional and business settings, I wanted to show myself as this, strong, powerful woman, and therefore I needed to have a strong handshake to, show that I'm X, Y, and Z. Whereas now I look and I smile and say, I'm sorry, I don't shake hands. And I just leave it at that. And I think that's a strong enough statement in itself to show who I am. I'm still pleasant, I'm smiling, and I have the conversations required, but I'm not having those, being pleasantries where I'm not comfortable. I'm not re I've never been comfortable shaking hands anyway, because God knows where the hands been, honestly, especially with men, some men anyway. Hygiene is a big issue with them. So I have always had to go and wash my hands afterwards. And I thought, well, why don't you need to do that? I don't need to shake hands with anybody. It's my life, it's my hand. And if I choose not to have physical contact, I don't need to. And in business context, I can be pleasant and I can be kind and smile and give a simple enough reason that Islamically, religiously, I don't shake hands, right? So I've often thought that because I can help someone, I should help them. But those are not the same things. Read that again emotionally. Just because you're capable of carrying something doesn't mean that it belongs to you. And I think strong women are particularly vulnerable for this because people see strength and think, excellent storage. Here, take my crisis, take my problem, take my emotional drama, take my business problem, take my family issues, take my traumas. And just because you're competent, you carry it. No, no. Return to sender. We don't need it. Not every parcel belongs at your address. And along with the physical touch of handshakes, etc., this is something else that I've become very consciously aware of that I will not be keeping. I will be returned to sender. Your attention is energy. This one is enormous. Your attention is energy. Where are you putting it? Because we talk constantly about managing money, budgeting your money, investing your money, don't waste your money. But what about your attention? You can make more money, but you cannot manufacture another Tuesday. Once that day is gone, it's gone. So when somebody takes 2 hours of your time talking about the same problem you've been discussing for 7 years while refusing to change anything, that wasn't free. It wasn't free. You paid for that conversation. You paid with your life. And that's a very expensive currency. And I've become much more aware of this of late. Where does my attention go? Where does my time go? Who gets my time? What conversations am I participating in? What environments am I entering in? Because protecting your energy means protecting your focus. And this is key. Now, coming back to money, money requires energy. We all know that, right? And because this is money mindset with Gull Khan, obviously, I'm going to bring it back to money. Your ability to create wealth requires energy. It's mental energy, it's creative energy, it's emotional energy, decision making energy. This decision fatigue is a real thing, people, right? Spiritual energy. You cannot constantly leak yourself everywhere and then wonder why you have nothing left for your dreams. Some of you don't need another manifestation technique. You need boundaries. You're trying to manifest millions while giving 27 people unlimited customer support access to your nervous system. Seriously, can you see that? Can you not see the issue here? No? Your future needs some of the energy. Your business needs some of it. Your children need some. Your health needs some. Your relationship with God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, needs some. You need some. You're allowed to keep something for yourself. Now, this doesn't mean I'm becoming fearful. No, not at all. And this is important. Protecting your energy does not mean becoming paranoid. Absolutely not. I don't want you to be walking around thinking, Tesco thinking, that woman near the avocado has negative vibrations. Relax, chill, woman. Buy the avocado. Seriously. We're not becoming frightened of humanity. No, not at all. Protection and fear are completely different energies. Fear says, everybody is dangerous. Oh no. And discernment says, everybody doesn't need access. Huge difference. I don't believe everybody is trying to steal my energy. I'm not that kind of mindset. I simply no longer believe that everybody automatically deserves access to me. And that's it. Physical boundaries are part of that as well, right? So yes, one change I'm making is not shaking hands with non-Mahram men. Absolutely. Will it occasionally be awkward? Probably, most likely, particularly in business, or especially, in my field because it's dominated by men. I spent years in professional environments where a handshake is almost automatic. It really is. Meeting begins, handshake. Meeting ends, handshake. Agreement reached, handshake. Oh my God. Uh, it's just very, very common. Yeah, very common. Somebody finds a printer, handshake or high five. We love handshake in business, just one of those things, you know? It really is, thinking about it now. So this will require me to consciously change a habit. And maybe somebody will think I'm strange. I'm sure they will. Yeah, but that's okay. That's absolutely okay. Because I'm becoming increasingly comfortable with being misunderstood for the things that bring me peace. I can place my hand on my heart. I can smile. I can greet someone warmly. I can explain briefly that I don't shake hands for religious reasons. Respect does not live in fingertips. It really doesn't. And I can communicate with respect without touching someone, right? It's not that difficult. It's about showing respect from afar without the need of crossing the boundary of physical contact. Now, women are allowed boundaries, absolutely. I particularly want women listening to this hear this. You don't owe physical affection to anybody. You don't owe emotional availability to everybody. You don't have to hug everybody or somebody because they open their arms, like they said, come hug me, right? You don't really have to do that. You don't have to let somebody into your personal space because saying no feels awkward, right? You don't have to keep conversations going because somebody is upset or needs you to, needs access to you. You don't. You don't have to explain every boundary until the other person agrees with it. Nobody has to agree to your boundaries. They're your boundaries, you just enforce them. Because sometimes we think a boundary only becomes valid once everybody understands it. It's like we have to give an explanation for it before someone accepts it, before someone understands it. But that's not the case. No. It's somebody can completely disagree with your boundary, and that's absolutely fine. It's still your boundary. It's still your life. It's still your choice. You get to enforce it, nobody else. And perhaps this is one of the biggest lessons I learned during this stage of my life. I can be loving without being endlessly available. That's a hard concept, really, really hard concept, but I've come to it. Another thing, your home is your energy too. Think about your physical environment. Who comes into your home? What do you watch? What do you listen to? What conversations happen around you? What are you consuming before bed? Your TikToks or Instagram reels. What are you consuming first thing in the morning? Hmm? You cannot spend 3 hours consuming outrage, gossip, arguments, bad news, and then say, I don't know why I feel heavy today. Darling, you mighty the entire internet into your nervous system before breakfast. Of course you feel heavy. Seriously, right? Protecting energy sometimes means putting the phone down. Sometimes it means leaving the room. Sometimes it means changing the subject. Sometimes it means saying, I don't really want to discuss this anymore, or I don't want to discuss that. Sometimes it means unfollowing. Sometimes it means blocking. And sometimes it means praying instead of scrolling. Seriously. The most important energy is your connection with Allah. I'm going to add this in. It really is. Ultimately, for me, preserving my energy is becoming part of my preserving my spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to be more quiet. I want to do more prayers. I want to do more zikr. I want more discernment. And more time where I'm not absorbing everybody else's opinions, and more time where I'm investing my time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, building that connection with the omnipotent one, right? And I don't want my mind to be constantly full of other people's voices. I mean, if because if my mind is constantly listening to other people's opinions and other people's ideas and other people's life stories, when do I have space for myself, my ideas? You know, how do I hear my own thoughts? And more importantly for me, how do I become quiet enough to become conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's a reason solitude has played such an important role in spiritual traditions. Silence creates space. Prayer creates space. Meditation creates space. Zikr creates space. Boundaries create space. And what you do with that space determines who you are. Now, you don't need to wait as long as I did. I feels like I took forever to get to this point. The funny thing is that I wished I understood this earlier. I have worked with energies for so long. I understood emotional blocks, money blocks, traumas, beliefs, ideas, vibration, healing. I get those concepts. I taught those concepts. And only recently have I properly asked, who am I allowing in my field in the first place? You know? And that's a different question. Healing is powerful, but prevention matters too. Absolutely. I talk about cord cutting all the time, but there's some people that you don't need to allow into your space in the first place. Yeah. If you constantly have to recover after interacting with somebody, perhaps the question isn't, how do I heal faster? Maybe the question is, why does this person still have unlimited or even some access to me? Ouch. I know. It's tough. I felt that one too. So I suppose the first thing you should do is do an energy audit. So this week, I want you to do an energy audit in your life, not fearfully, but consciously. Ask yourself, who gets physical access to me? Who gets emotional access to me? Who gets access to my deepest fears and dreams? Who gets my time? Who gets my attention? Who has access to my home? Who has access to my children? Who gets immediate access to me through my phone? Who leaves me feeling expanded? And who consistently leaves me feeling depleted? And then ask, did I consciously give this person this level of access, or did it simply happen? That's a powerful question. Because most of our boundaries were never actually chosen. They evolved accidentally over time. But now you can choose again. So I think this is a season where I'm entering now. It's less access, more intention, not less love, not by any means, not less kindness, not less generosity, but just more discernment. I can love humanity without giving humanity unrestricted access to me. I can respect a man without shaking his hand. I can care about somebody without carrying their emotional baggage. I can listen without absorbing. I can help without risking. I can I can help without rescuing. I can give without emptying myself. And this is key, that understanding the fact that my energy is a resource. My body is an amana. It's a amana. It's a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My time is a resource. My attention is a resource. My peace is a resource. My spiritual state matters. Absolutely. So I'm becoming more conscious about what enters it, right? And perhaps that's the message I want to leave you with today. Stop treating access to as though it is free. It isn't. It isn't. Access is earned. Protect your heart. Protect your body. Protect your attention. Protect your peace. And most importantly, protect your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and protect the energy you need to build the life Allah has placed, you here to create. You're here to do something. Do it. You don't need to become harder. You don't need to build walls around yourself. Absolutely not. You simply need a gate. And you need to remember that you are the only one holding the key. So you get to choose who enters through that gate. And as a rule of thumb, everyone's denied access through the gate unless they prove themselves worthy of your time, attention, affection, love, and you. Thank you so much for joining me today on another episode of Money Mindset with Gull Khan. I would love to join you next time and stay blessed, stay conscious, and know that you are worthy of every blessing that's on its way to you. Until the next time, meet. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who you think might need to hear this message. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, come and join my free school community. The link is in the description below, where you will find free training, live sessions, and an incredible community, all focused on creating wealth, purpose, and freedom. Remember, abundance isn't about the money you have, it's about the life you create, the impact you make, and the person you become along the way. Until the next time, take care of yourself, keep glowing, keep growing, keep believing, and as always, stay abundant. Assalamu alaikum.